Sunset over the city. A train rumbles across the bridge, carrying another load of exhausted workers home. Inside, it's the usual sardine can. Oh, Hyunmin is just one of many, gripping a handle and his briefcase just trying to stay upright. He looks like he's about to collapse. The dark circles under his eyes say it all. One thought is looping in his head. He's actually going to die from this. The PA system chimes in. They're approaching Uedo, and the doors are about to open on the left. People start shoving before the train even stops. Hyunmin gets caught in the middle of the scramble. He scowls at the rowdy kids pushing past him. No respect for the grind. His vision starts to blur. He's reaching his limit. Then he sees it. A miracle on line 9, an empty seat during rush hour. He doesn't hesitate. He claims his prize. He clutches his bag and closes his eyes. Finally, a moment of peace. Meet manager Oh Hyunmin, 33 years old and already running on empty. He's always been an overachiever, top of his class at SNU, passing the CPA exam before he even graduated. He was the youngest manager in the company's history. An executive spot was basically guaranteed. But that success came with a price. Every time a project hit a wall, the board meeting turned into a firing squad. The solution was always the same: dump the disaster on Hyunmin's desk. He was the guy who made the impossible happen, even if it was killing him. Back on the train, he lets out a long, weary sigh. He's a shell of a man. 3 straight months of overtime? No one can sustain that. His head lolls back. He's out before he can even think about his stop. Everything goes dark. A sudden chill snaps him awake. He looks up, but he isn't in a subway car anymore. He's staring at a vast, open sky. Panic starts to set in. He definitely didn't miss his stop. He missed his entire reality. He's sitting on a massive stone throne in the middle of a cavern, suit, tie, and all. Below him, a huge crowd is cheering. It's a literal standing ovation from a horde of monsters. They're small, green, and incredibly loud. They're hooting and hollering with pure joy. Some of them are actually crying as they scream. Talk about a warm welcome. Hyunmin rubs his eyes, desperate for this to be a vivid dream. He opens them again, but nothing's changed. The cave is still there, and so are the creatures. The celebration is getting intense. One of them is even spinning around on the floor. His jaw just drops. This is beyond any stress-induced hallucination. He puts his head in his hands. He's convinced he's either dead or has finally lost his mind. From his high vantage point, the scale of the crowd is clear. There are dozens of them down there. The noise is deafening. A collective roar of KIA shakes the room. One goblin gets right up in the frame, screaming its lungs out. Hyunmin is sweating now. This is way too real. Green skin, pointed ears, tusks. There's no mistaking what these are. Goblins, exactly like the ones from every game or anime he's ever seen. He tries to make sense of the madness, but it's not clicking. One of the little guys drops to his knees and calls him Lord. The whole tribe joins in, cheering that their lord has finally arrived. Hyunmin stares down in total shock. They aren't just talking, they're speaking perfect, fluent Korean. Hyunmin is standing there in his expensive suit, wondering why a bunch of green guys are calling him Lord. One of the little green kids starts waddling toward him. It stops right at the foot of his stone throne. The kid's holding out this weird, glowing orange fruit. He's practically begging Hyunmin to take a bite. Hyunmin takes it, but he's definitely not sold on the idea yet. He's seen a lot of weird things as a manager, but never a fruit like this. It's even creepier up close. He can feel a pulse thumping under the skin. He looks back at the little goblin, totally lost. The whole crowd is watching him like he's about to perform a miracle. He realizes if he says no, he's going to break all their tiny green hearts. He stares at the orange blob in his hand. Compared to the triangle kimbap he usually eats for dinner, this is practically gourmet. He sighs. His life back home was already a nightmare, so what's the worst that could happen? He stops overthinking and just goes for it. He takes a massive bite, his eyes widening instantly. The crowd is holding its breath, waiting for a reaction. It's incredible, easily the best thing he's ever put in his mouth. The goblins go absolutely wild, screaming their heads off. He's still confused. It's just a snack. Why are they acting like he just saved the world? Then the room starts spinning. He hits the deck, his briefcase sliding across the floor. His head is pounding like he just pulled a 72-hour shift. Suddenly, a blue screen pops up right in front of his face. It's a full-on character sheet. It says he's the Lord of Red Rock Valley with a population of 47. He just stares. His traits are literally overtime and speech. Even in another world, he can't escape the office. He can't believe what he's seeing, a real-life hologram. The screen is ticking down. Something called a territory war is starting in 4 days. He scans the rest of the info. Red Rock Valley, population 47, those aren't great numbers. He mutters to himself, wondering what a territory war even is. He sits there on the cold stone floor, trying to process the fact that he's in a video game reality. A notification pings. The system is actually listening to him. It explains that a territory war is a total war, where you have to use everything you've got to survive. He nearly jumps out of his skin. The voice is coming from inside his head. The system identifies itself as Wiki. Great, he's got a talking encyclopedia. It offers to give him a history lesson, but Human tells it to get to the point. He asks the most obvious question, where the hell is he? The response is short and terrifying, the demon realm. He looks out at the jagged, endless mountains surrounding the cave. He can't wrap his head around it. Summoned to the demon realm, this has to be a joke. The silence of the cave settles in. He's just a regular guy in a business suit in the middle of a monster world. He tells the system to cut the mystery and give him a real briefing on how to stay alive. Wiki hits him with the classic, low-level restriction when he asks how to get home. Human is about to lose it. He's yelling at the thin air, demanding a way back to his world. The red system window just repeats the same frustrating message. He slumps back into the cold stone throne, completely drained. He stares into the void, his mind spinning 1,000,000 miles an hour. The reality of his situation is finally starting to sink in. He grabs his cheek and gives it a good, hard yank. The sharp sting confirms it. This isn't some weird fever dream. He lets out a breath he's been holding for a long time. He tries to get a grip on the situation, rubbing his eyes. He summarizes the deal. He has to lead these guys into a war. The system confirms his worst fears with a simple, "That is correct." He looks out at the army he's been given. They aren't exactly elite warriors. They look more like they need a hot meal and a nap. He eyes their skinny frames. They're all skin and bones. Up close, they look even more pathetic. He thinks it's insane. He'd probably have a better chance in a fight against them himself. He asks Wiki the $1,000,000 question, what happens if they lose? Wiki doesn't sugarcoat it. Losing means he's probably going to die. The system explains that in a territory war, the winner gets total control over the loser's lives. It even gives him the stats. 99.95% of losing lords end up dead. A dry, hollow laugh escapes his lips. He looks up at the dark cavern ceiling. Whether it's his old life or this one, he's always stuck in a mess. He remembers the office, the constant struggle of trying to do everything with zero budget. No manpower either. He was always the one running around doing everyone else's work. And of course, there was never enough time. Just endless nights spent staring at a glowing computer screen. The stress of tomorrow morning deadlines was a constant weight on his chest. He realizes this world isn't that different. It's just a different kind of corporate nightmare. He looks up from the throne, his eyes narrowing. He asks Wiki if winning and leveling up is the key to finally getting home. The system pings with a glimmer of hope, possible. It immediately follows up with a warning about how slim his chances are. Human tells the system to save its breath and stands up. He starts walking, his footsteps echoing through the cave. He's stuck in a bizarre world where he's supposedly going to die in 4 days. He doesn't have time to sit around and mope. He looks out over the valley, the weight of the war finally settling on his shoulders. The little goblin with the red scarf watches him, looking worried. The rest of the tribe stares at their new lord, unsure of what he's going to do. Hyunmin faces them all. He's still got 4 days to turn this around. He loosens his tie, slipping back into his manager mindset. He's Hyunmin, a man who knows how to get results. Hyunmin narrows his eyes, his resolve hardening. He has no intention of dying in a place like this. He looks at the gathered tribe and delivers the news. "Everyone," he says, "it's unfortunate." A stark truth from his old life flashes through his mind. Overtime creates miracles. He loosens his tie, his expression turning predatory and intense. "Starting tonight," he announces, "every single one of you is working overtime." He surveys the battlefield, a deep, fan-shaped canyon carved into the dark rock. He stands before the Red Rock Valley Goblins, analyzing the terrain. The narrow entrance is a bottleneck that could work in their favor. His sharp, tired eyes scan every detail of the rocky environment. He puts the question to his new employees. "How do we win in this kind of terrain?" he asks, but the goblins only offer confused chirps and blank stares. The red wiki system window pings with a useless message about his low level. Hyunmin snaps back, telling it to keep quiet. He pinches the bridge of his nose, feeling the weight of the task ahead. He's going to have to teach these creatures from the absolute basics. He raises a hand, demanding silence and focus from the motley crew. "All right, everyone pay attention." He positions himself at the mouth of the valley, arms outstretched. "From now on," he declares, "we must defend this narrow alley." He begins rolling up his sleeves, ready to transition from a manager to a foreman. He starts barking orders, singling out a small squad. "You 10 over there." He points toward the sparse, sturdy trees clinging to the higher ledges. "See those trees over there? Pick ones about my height and chop them down." The goblins look at him, then at the trees, their faces masks of pure bewilderment. Hyunmin's voice booms across the valley. "What are you doing? If you think I'm talking to you, hurry up and run." The fear of his authority finally registers, and the 10 goblins scramble away as fast as their spindly legs can carry them. He watches them go, thinking they're just like raw recruits who need a firm hand to get moving. He turns to the next group, his finger already pointing. "You 15 go up there." He directs them toward the jagged peaks overlooking the entrance. "Pick up every rock you can find and pile them on top of that cliff." The goblins begin the arduous climb, digging their claws into the rock as they scale the vertical face. Finally, he addresses the remaining members of the tribe. "The rest of you, come with me and dig a pit near the entrance. Move out." Without tools or equipment, the goblins are forced to use their bare hands, tearing at the hard, packed earth of the valley floor. Hyunmin is out here digging into the dirt with his bare hands. He's determined to make things work with whatever limited resources he can find. Above the valley, 2 crescent moons glow in the night sky. He's already got some heavy-duty boulders lined up along the cliff edge, ready to be used as a trap. Inside the cavern, a pile of sharpened wooden stakes is leaning against the wall, ready for duty. They've even managed to dig out a deep trench in the middle of the path for extra defense. The manager stands before the tribe and gives them some rare praise. The goblins let out a collective cheer in response. But honestly, they're a total mess, completely covered in grime and dust from all the manual labor. Right then, a system window pops up. The overtime trait has been activated, giving the tribe a boost in efficiency while keeping their hunger and exhaustion in check. Hyunmin looks a bit relieved, but he knows they don't have a second to waste. He tells everyone to take a quick breather and pay attention to what's coming next. He looks out over his ragged group of subjects. The prep work during the day was just the warm-up. The real grind starts now. Hyunmin looks them dead in the eye and asks if they truly understand the essence of working overtime. The Red Rock Valley goblins just stare back at him, looking pretty confused. Under the twin moons, he explains that while it's going to be brutal, every drop of sweat they shed tonight means one less drop of blood spilled in the war. He hoists a spear into the air and demands a battle cry that'll echo through the valley. A few goblins lead the charge, shouting back with everything they've got. Soon the whole crowd is pumping their fists and chanting overtime like it's their new favorite word. They've fully committed to the hustle. Hyunmin barks out the next order. It's time to grab their weapons and get into formation. The tribe scrambles into motion, their bare feet thumping against the stone floor. It's instant chaos. Goblins are stumbling over each other and running in every direction. The Lord watches the mess unfold and can't help but sigh. This is a disaster. He looks at their gear, a blunt rock and a rusty dagger. It's clear they aren't winning this with raw power. He decides to take a more strategic approach, figuring that since their equipment is probably just as bad as the enemy's, tactics will be the deciding factor. In his head, he envisions the battlefield like a game where positioning is everything. He recalls a corporate chairman who always preached that the answer to any problem could be found in the art of war. He remembers reading about ancient military formations that were basically a blueprint for running a successful business. The plan is simple, a dense infantry formation where everyone stands shoulder to shoulder and thrusts forward together. Hyunmin tries to get them started by ordering the tribe to just line up in a single file. Naturally, they have no idea what that means and just keep bumping into each other. He steps in and grabs a small goblin by the shoulders, setting him as the guide for the rest. Then he picks up another goblin and shoves him into place right next to the first one. He keeps going, manually building his wall of soldiers one by one. He tells them to keep the spacing tight. If they can feel the elbow of the guy next to them, they're in the right spot. He picks up a spear himself to demonstrate, showing them the proper way to hold it with both hands pointed forward. The goblins try to copy his stance, leveling their stakes as he explains when to advance and when to thrust. The manager bellows out the command to advance. Immediately, one goblin trips over his own feet and faceplants onto the ground. The poor guy just lies there, completely wiped out. Hyunmin's shoe appears right in front of his face as he tells the guy to get back up. He isn't letting anyone slack off. He orders them to reset the line. They scramble back into their shaky formation as he roars the command to advance once again. Hyunmin looks out over his troops with a cold, professional gaze. If there's one thing he's learned from the corporate grind, it's that perfection takes practice, so he orders them to go again. As the goblins stumble and trip over their own feet, he thinks about how repetition beats talent every single time. He roars at them to advance. The training goes deep into the night under the glow of the twin moons, with Hyunmin's voice echoing across the valley as he demands more. He can see the toll it's taking. Their faces are starting to change, and not in a good way. Their hands are trembling as they grip their crude spears, and their shoulders are slumped with pure exhaustion. Looking at one goblin's face, Hyunmin realizes he's seen that exact expression before. It's the same look a new recruit has when their third report in a row gets rejected, the look of someone who's completely lost hope. But he can't afford to let them quit. He tells them they have to keep moving if they want to survive, and orders them to start over yet again. The moons hang high in the sky as his voice continues to ring out across the cliffs. The Red Rock Valley goblins are literally using their spears as crutches just to stay upright. One of them stumbles and nearly falls flat on his face. Hyunmin isn't showing any mercy, shouting at them to get up and asking if they think this is just a game. He tells them that from now on, every single mistake is going to cost them 10 extra reps. Suddenly, a small voice calls out to him, calling him my lord. He turns to see the small goblin, red scarf and all, walking tentatively toward him. Hyunmin looks down at the kid and asks what he wants. The little guy hesitates, looking down at the ground. He quietly suggests that they should just send the young ones away as food instead of fighting. Hyunmin's eyes widen in absolute disbelief. The child continues, explaining that this is how they've always survived, by sacrificing a few children so the rest don't have to fight. A group of even smaller goblin children are huddled together behind the adults, looking terrified. The small goblin reaches out and gently takes hold of Hyunmin's finger. He looks up with a sad smile and tells the Lord that if they do this, he can live too. The kid seems almost relieved to offer himself up. The rest of the tribe just stands there in silence, their heads hanging in shame. A dark shadow falls over Hyunmin's face as a wave of cold fury washes over him. He grits his teeth so hard it sounds like stone grinding on stone. He turns to the whole tribe and asks them if they're actually happy surviving like this. by feeding their own children to the enemy. The goblins don't say a word, too ashamed to even look him in the eye. He tells them that once you start giving things up one by one, you'll eventually find yourself with nothing left. His voice swells into a roar as he declares that they're going to fight with every single thing they've got. He screams that they won't give up an inch of their land or a single one of their children. With his eyes blazing, he vows that they won't even surrender a single grain of sand, and that the days of letting others take from them are over. The speech works. The tribe erupts into a wild cheer, their fear replaced by a desperate, unified resolve. Suddenly, the system windows pop up again. The countdown to the territory war is hitting the final seconds. A bright red notification flashes. The territory war has begun. High-pitched screeches echo through the canyon. A small puddle sits undisturbed on the ground for just a second. A heavy bare foot splashes right into it, sending water flying. The Black Hill goblins charge out of the darkness, their yellow eyes glowing with a hunger for slaughter. O'Hunman stands his ground at the end of the pass, his small but disciplined phalanx of goblins ready and waiting. He takes a deep breath, looking calm and lethal. He watches the incoming horde as they flood into the narrow tunnel. O'Hunman stands ready behind his line of Red Rock Valley goblins, who are holding their crude spears in a defensive wall. He's certain that they've done everything they possibly can to prepare. The Black Hill goblins roar as they charge forward, their yellow eyes glowing with a feral hunger as they rush the narrow pass. Watching the enemy swarm toward him, O'Hunman's face twists into a defiant smirk as he dares them to come and get it. A massive, hidden trench stretches across the canyon floor, with goblins standing ready along the edges with heavy boulders. O'Hunman stands behind his small line of spearmen, as the sounds of the approaching horde echo through the tunnel. The Black Hill horde finally bursts into view, their eyes glowing with a mindless bloodlust. His own goblins are clearly terrified, looking back at their leader for some kind of reassurance. He yells at them to hold steady. The trap only works if they wait until the enemy tries to cross. The charging enemies reach the very edge of the pit at full speed. Hunman just watches, waiting for that perfect moment when their momentum becomes a death sentence. The lead goblins finally see the drop and try to dig their heels in. It's useless. The drop is massive and right in front of them. They scream for the guys in the back to stop pushing, but no one's listening in the heat of a charge. The sheer weight of the ranks behind them shoves the front line right into the void. Goblins tumble into the darkness, piling up in a heap of broken limbs at the bottom. Watching the mess, Hunman realizes these monsters are just as incompetent as the people in his old world. With a cold glint in his eye, he realizes today's victory is already in the bag. At the bottom of the trench, the survivors are struggling to even stand under the weight of their comrades. He looks down at them with a ruthless smile, telling them to struggle all they want. The trapped invaders scream in pain and confusion as more bodies continue to fall on top of them. One goblin gets pinned down, unable to escape the growing mountain of flesh. The Black Hill horde continues to rush forward blindly, sprinting straight into the abyss. Hunman knows that once half of them are in the pit, there's no way for the rest to retreat. The pit is now a writhing mass of green skin and tusks. His expression turns chilling as he vows to make them regret ever setting foot here. He signals to the team stationed up on the cliffs. Now, he screams, kicking off the next phase of his plan. High above, the Red Rock goblins start dropping the massive boulders they spent all night gathering. Heavy rocks plummet through the air toward the helpless targets trapped below. A boulder connects with a skull with a sickening crack, ending any hope of a fight. The rocks keep coming, raining down in a steady, lethal rhythm. It's a total massacre. The heavy stones crush through bone and crude armor alike. One survivor can only stare up in horror as another massive shadow looms over him. The goblins in the back still don't get it, pushing forward only to stumble over more bodies. Chaos takes over the pit as every enemy tries to find a spot that isn't about to be hit. Another direct hit finds its mark, ending another struggle instantly. Hunman observes the carnage, nodding they're nothing but sitting targets now. The few left alive are broken and barely conscious among the rubble. Some stubborn survivors still try to scramble over the pile to reach the other side. Hyunmin smiles, knowing that at this point, their superior numbers mean absolutely nothing. He steps forward and tells his tribe to grab their spears for the final cleanup. With a roar, he orders his disciplined line to advance. The spearmen thrust downward, methodically picking off anyone still moving. They work like a machine, eliminating every threat left at the bottom of the trench. A spear comes back coated in blood, as the last of the resistance in the pit finally fades. Oh Hyunmin shouts at his tribe to stay focused, ordering them to pull back and thrust in a steady, lethal rhythm. The spearmen execute his commands perfectly, their strikes systematic and relentless. Hyunmin continues to bark orders, telling them to hold their formation and keep up the pressure. With the enemy trapped and reeling, he gives the signal for his small unit to advance. A spear finds its mark, piercing through an enemy as the red rock goblins drive forward. The momentum has completely shifted, with the invaders now the ones fleeing in terror. The survivors of the Black Hill territory stumble backward, their earlier aggression replaced by pure panic. They reach the edge of the pit, their heels skidding on the loose rock. In their haste to escape the spears, they forget the drop right behind them. They tumble into the darkness, screams echoing up from the depths of the trench. Looking down at the carnage, Hyunmin watches as the last of the charging horde is funneled into his trap. Everything is going exactly according to plan, and a cold, satisfied smile plays on his lips. He notes that the tide has finally turned, with the enemy being bombarded from above and driven back from the front. He tells his tribe that their hard work throughout the night has fundamentally changed the battlefield. Just as victory seems certain, a sudden heavy thud shakes the ground, catching Hyunmin off guard. A massive shadow looms over the canyon floor as a giant, red-skinned figure lands with a bone-shattering force. The impact sends nearby goblins flying, the sheer power of the arrival clear to everyone present. A massive, clawed foot crushes the stone, marking the arrival of a truly dangerous opponent. The red rock goblins freeze in terror as they look up at the towering figure with wild, orange hair. Steam rises from the massive creature's chest, his breath heavy and hot in the cool canyon air. The hobgoblin lord of the Black Hill let out a deafening roar, his orange eyes glowing with an intense fury. Standing atop the pile of bodies, he raises a massive bone club, challenging the entire valley. He crouches low, ready to spring at the first thing that moves. With a sudden burst of speed, the hobgoblin leaps into the air, a terrifying force of muscle and rage. He lands right in front of the human in the suit, the impact cracking the canyon floor. The red rock goblins cower behind their leader, who remains remarkably calm despite the monster towering over him. The hobgoblin sneers, mocking Hyunmin for being such an unimpressive and weak-looking lord. Hyunmin doesn't flinch, dryly retorting that he recognized the monster immediately, mostly by his awful breath. He observes that this lord definitely looks different from the other goblins, carrying a far more dangerous aura. The hobgoblin roars for him to shut up, his temper flaring at the human's lack of respect. He demands that they forget the small fry and settle the battle with a sacred one-on-one duel between lords. Hyunmin blinks, clearly caught off guard by the request for an honorable fight in the middle of a slaughter. He glances to the side, his mind already working on how to exploit this sudden turn of events. He asks for clarification, sounding more annoyed than intimidated by the idea of a duel. The hobgoblin sneers again, asking if the human is simply too scared to fight like a real warrior. Hyunmin looks around at his trembling subjects, nodding that his own presence is the only thing keeping them from running. The monster lord swings his bone club with a violent force, calling Hyunmin a pathetic coward in front of his tribe. He laughs, relishing the sight of what he believes is a trembling victim. The hobgoblin sighs, wondering if he was expecting too much from a weak-looking creature in a strange suit. He decides to finish this quickly, promising to end Hyunmin's life before he can even beg for mercy. Just as the hobgoblin prepares to strike, a sudden, massive boulder drops from the cliff directly onto his head. The monster lord barely has time to scream about the interrupted, sacred duel before he's driven into the ground. The hobgoblin lord looks up in shock as a rain of heavy stones begins to fall from the cliffs above. He barely has time to let out a grunt of pain before he is completely buried under the relentless barrage of rocks. The once mighty lord is crushed, his body pinned and broken beneath the rubble as the dust settles. O'Hunman stands calmly with his spear-wielding goblins, coldly stating that winning is the only thing that truly matters. He looks up at the cliffs where more of his tribe are perched, nodding that the battle was already won, so a duel was unnecessary. A status window appears in the air, officially declaring that he has won the territory battle. A smirk of satisfaction crosses Hunman's face as he realizes his plan worked perfectly. He raises his spear and shouts to his tribe, congratulating them on their hard-earned victory. One of the red rock goblins sits on the ground, exhausted but relieved that the nightmare is finally over. The entire tribe erupts into cheers, their voices echoing through the canyon as they celebrate their triumph. A bloodied hand twitches in the dirt, belonging to one of the few surviving Black Hill goblins. The survivor groans, struggling to crawl away from the site of the massacre. He looks up in terror as a spear tip is leveled at his face, the victors closing in for the kill. The red rock goblins growl that there's still one alive and move in to finish the job. Hunman steps forward, his eyes sharp as he watches his followers prepare for the final execution. He suddenly speaks up, his voice calm but commanding, telling them to wait. The goblins pause, looking confused as they turn to their leader for an explanation. They ask him why he's stopping them, their eyes wide with surprise at the sudden order. Hunman asks them if they are really going to kill the survivor, his expression unreadable. One of his tribesmen argues that if they spare him, he'll just come back to attack and bully them again. Hunman firmly says no, taking a step toward the cowering enemy. He gestures toward the survivor, stating that if they kill him, he's just a useless corpse. He looks down at the terrified goblin, concluding with cold logic, spare him and he becomes a valuable resource.